All right, let's jump into the firing line. Talk more Texans, joined by John Harris from 1560 The Game and Mark Vandermeer, Sports Radio 610. Guys, thanks for the time. Here we go. National spotlight again tomorrow night for the Texans. How do you feel going into this one against a pretty good Baltimore team here?
A lot like the other ones, right? I mean, I feel like this one can be a lot like the Philadelphia game, a lot like the Jet game, where a lot of people don't give them a great chance to win, Randy, but in the fourth quarter, I think they're going to be there. The question is, do they make the big mistake or do they make the big play? All too often this year, they made the big mistake.
I'm nervous against teams that are this physical, and especially a team that lost last week. And that was something to prove on Monday night. And I think teams like the Ravens, they get in a game against a team in which they perceive the Texans to be soft, whether they are or they're not. They perceive them to be that way. They want to put a foot on the throat early and make them quit. And that worries me about the Ravens, that they will try and impose their physical will early, and the Texans won't be able to respond.
Let's talk about mindset right now of the Texans and where you think it is. You look, they lost 5 out of their last 6 games. Their last 4 losses, a pretty slim margin. I think the margin of loss there is about 5 or 6 points. What's the mindset right now, especially late in the game, if they're in it? What are they thinking right now?
I fear that the mindset is we have to score 30 or more to win, because you talk about the losses. Yeah, 2 weeks ago they beat Tennessee 20-0, but third-string quarterback, we all know that. The point totals surrendered are way too high. The offense knows they have nearly paper-thin margin of error, so they have to be nearly perfect, and Gary Kubiak used that word after the Philadelphia loss. Matt Schaub has to be perfect. Well, they might be thinking that they have to be perfect in order to win a football game. Somehow the defense has to play well. It's going to be tough against Baltimore.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, you don't see, as Mark said earlier, we were talking about this before we started, you don't see the Texans winning many 13-10 ball games. Good teams can find ways to win different ways. They can win 13-10. Their defense can also come up and make plays. You got to get contributions in a game like this from all 3 phases. The special teams got to come up with something. They haven't done anything this year. The defense has got to make a play and turn the Ravens over at some point. And the offense has to be, I hope they don't have to be perfect, but they may have to against this defense.
Changes in the offseason, no matter how they finish, John, what's your take on what desperately needs to happen priority-wise? Do you start with defense?
Well, absolutely. I think you have to renovate the entire defense, and it'll be interesting to see what the collective bargaining agreement does or doesn't do to this organization, whether they make a change at the head coaching position, whether they make a change with the defensive coordinator. Regardless of what they do, they've got to find some defensive playmakers, whether that's through free agency or through the draft.
Is Gary Kubiak likely to make a change? It starts with Frank Bush, and then the personnel you're talking about. You have to start at the D coordinator position.
Well, you look at chicken or egg here. Personnel or coaching or a combination of both. You look at too many missed assignments, players out of position at times, yet this defense last year did pretty well in the final 13 games. So what is it? It's very hard to figure it out. If it was that solvable, they would have done it already. So, yeah, they're going to have to strongly consider making some major adjustments.
All right, final few seconds here. They're 5-7. When it's all over with, what's the record going to be?
Ask Mark first.
Hey, 9-7. Well, look, I don't think it's I think it's possible they can win out. I don't think they're going to be able to do it, but I'll hope that they can do it. I mean, if they win against Baltimore on a Monday nighter, that gives them a lot of momentum into the final 3. So let's see what happens tomorrow.
I'm thinking 8-8. I think they're going to get to 8-8.
That's the mark I had, 8-8. And you know what? That's typical for this Texans team, right smack dab in the middle. Not playoff bound, but not the worst team in the league. They'll be drafting 17 or 18 in the draft yet again. I think 8-8 is probably about right. Go 3-1 down the stretch.
All right, good stuff. We'll get ready for tomorrow night. Baltimore, the Texans at Reliance Stadium. John Harris, 1560 The Game. Mark Vandermeer, Sports Radio 610. Guys, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Trent.
Metrodome in Minneapolis.
All right, so check this out. Texans and Ravens no longer